Hi guys, and welcome to the Crystal Palace podcast with me, your host, Alfonso Greenbrook. Today in pod 2, I'll be looking at the result of the Philadelphia Union in pre-season. I'll be discussing the match, player performances, my man of the match, as well as hearing from Pardew and Andros Townsend and what they had to say after the game. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Facebook at Crystal Palace to join in with the conversation. So let's begin. Palace's preparations for the 2016-17 Premier League season started with a goalless draw against high-flying Philadelphia Union at Italian Energy Stadium. Despite not finding a net in the 90 minutes, the Eagles managed to give runouts to all their outfield players, and a quiet first 45 minutes was surpassed after the break, with only a good display from Matt Jones in the Union goal denying Alan Pardew's men a winning start to their three-game tour. Having not played for nearly 2 months, there was plenty of ring rust for the visitors to shake off, and it showed in a scrappy opening 25 minutes, which only produced a single chance for each side. Firstly, Keegan Rosenberry swung a cross into the box, but CJ Sungpong could only stab the ball into the side netting, and at the other end, Freddie Lapido shot straight at John McCarthy with the Eagles' first full tray forward. Also, unsurprisingly, given they were fully match sharp, the Union enjoyed the majority of possession and territory in the first half, but chances remained few and far between. However, on 27 minutes, Rosenberry went close when he volleyed downwards into the turf following a Roman Albert corner, but the ball span over Julian Speroni's crossbar. 5 minutes later, another set piece into the box caused problems when CJ Sungpung beat Speroni to Albo's delivery, but his header flashed over. And on 40 minutes, the best chance of the half arrived at Walter Rashford's feet when a quick throw-in allowed Sungpung to race away and cut the ball back to the edge of the box, but the midfielder blazed over. Lapido managed to eke out a second opportunity for himself out of nothing when he stuck behind Josh Yarrow after a poor touch by the defender to prod the ball goalwards, but McCarthy blocked with his body. And that was as good as things got for the visibly tiring Eagles 11 in the first half. As expected, a raft of changes took place at the interval, which saw the Union make 9 changes to Alan Pardew's 3. We saw James Tompkins make his debut, and the alterations had the desired effect on the second half, as it was much livelier than its predecessor. Early on, Leo Ferdinand twice screwed the ball harmlessly off target before another new face in Andros Townsend cracked the ball into the side netting in what was a highlight of a solid debut for the £30 million man. As the quality of the field improved, and so did the play, and soon Palace were looking much more dangerous and creating plenty of chances, but some inspired goalkeeping kept them at bay. On the hour mark, Corner Wickham controlled the ball just outside the area, span around a defender and unleashed a vicious strike, but it was pushed past the post by substitute stopper Jones, and the Union's third-choice keeper had to do the same when Bakary Sakho took aim midway through the half, but again it was diverted away for a corner. However, when he made his best save when Sakho slipped in Wickham, who sped goals and looked destined to find a net, but Jones stayed big and got a hand to the effort which prevented the deadlock being broken. There was one final chance for the Eagles, but Tompkins couldn't cap his first game in red and blue with a goal, as his header flashed over the far post, as the spoils were shared. Now to move on to the player rankings, and I say player rankings, all I'm going to do this week, as obviously it's pre-season and nearly every player from the bench and obviously the starting 11 play, so there's going to be quite a lot of places, so instead of highlighting or going through every single player's performance, all I'm going to do is pick out maybe 2 or 3 players, even 4 or 5 the players from the bench who I personally think had the biggest impact on the game, and obviously instead of going through everyone's, I'll just go through these specific players' highlights from the game, what they've done well, and just their whole sort of effect on the game. And I suppose instead of calling it player rankings, let's just call it player performances, because I am picking out the best performances. So I'll just read out the lineup and then I'll go through who I think out of the starting lineup had the most effect, and then I'll move on to the substitutions. So in goal was Julian Speroni. The back line was Ward, Kelly, Dan, Fryers. Then in the midfield, the defensive midfield was Boateng and Much. Then this is the debatable bit about the formation, but personally watching the game, I think that Townsend played on one wing and Punchin played on the other, with both Kai and Lapido playing up front. So a very interesting lineup. Obviously not the strongest lineup for Palace, but certainly a second team who could do a job. And just as you heard in the match report there were loads of different chances throughout the game, and if it weren't for the fact that the keeper was having the best game of his life, then we probably would have scored a few. But that just shows that even with a second team with a few youth players chucked in there, we can still do damage. But a few of the players sort of to point out for a good performance is the likes of Townsend, Kai and Lapido, and Punchin, I think, to an extent as well. I think these four players had a massive impact on the game. Obviously, Townsend, just his sheer crossing ability, his ability to cut across and have a shot on goal, his passing ability, his sheer pace as well. So everything you would want of a winger, he had in that game. And unluckily for him, he couldn't, take any of his chances and score. But certainly a good performance of him. Same really goes to Punchin. He's slightly slower than Townsend, but he's got the same attributes. He's able to cut inside, cut inside, make runs down the wing, cross the ball in, all of that stuff. But a thing that Punchin does rather that I haven't seen Townsend do much yet is defending. And obviously you don't really want attackers to defend as much. But when, say, you're doing a high press game and your players are quite far up the pitch, you want a fast player who would normally attack. You want them to run back and defend. And I think Punchin done that very well as well. Obviously now to move on to the two strikers who I thought were very similar within the game. But I think similar to some of the games this season when we played a 4-4-2, I think they're two completely different players as such. But obviously Kai, youth product, I don't know whether to class him as a striker, as a winger, as a centre mid, a cam, because he plays a whole different amount of positions. And in this game especially, obviously he did play down the middle in a sort of 4-4-2 formation. But certainly throughout the game, he didn't really have any sort of goal scoring opportunities as such throughout the game. But they were obviously handed to Lapido, who had many of them. I think Lapido was playing off of Kai. So Kai would make the runs, get the crosses in, make the passes, and Lapido would take the shots. And Lapido done that on numerous occasions throughout the game. 2 or 3 shots he had blocked by the keeper. A few of them obviously came from crosses from Townsend and Kai. So actually, a really, really good performance from both of these strikers. And considering people were a bit dubious, myself included, when we bought Lapido from Margate, I thought, well, we need a proper proven striker like maybe Benteke, Berahino, a few of and Sacco from West Ham. A few of these players have been linked with Palace, and I think, yeah, that's fine, a proven goal scorer in the Premier League. But when we brought Lapido in from Margate, we're thinking, he may be a bit off. But having seen the goals he scored for Margate and having seen the 2 goals he scored in his debut for the Crystal Palace youth team, I'm beginning to see actually how good the signing this is. And the same was with Dwight Gale, the fact that the scouting at Crystal Palace were able to find a talent in this player. And that's happening with a lot of Premier League clubs recently. The likes of Jamie Vardy, Kante, Mahrez coming down from lower leagues after getting scouted, and they're turning out to be good players. So hopefully it can be a similar story for Lapido, because in this game and all of the other pre-season games as well, he's shown glimpses of what there is to come from him. And I personally think that even this may work. Kai Lapido up front. Maybe we could try that next season and in the cup games, because all it's got really physical players. It's got sheer pace, good passing ability, good shooting as well. So them 2 players could work really well together. But they're the main sort of people from the starting 11. But now I'm going to move on to the substitutions. So I'll just read through the substitutions. So Kroll came on for Ward. Delaney came on for Kelly. Tompkins, the main man himself, obviously recently signed for West Ham, came on for Dan. Then Sacco came on for Jordan Much. Lee Chung-yong came on for Townsend. Wickham came on for Punchin. Zaha came on for Kai. And Fraser Campbell came on for Lapido. So there's a few of these players who actually had a real impact on the game. And like it said in the match report, as soon as these sort of substitutions came on, most of them, 3 of the players that came on at halftime made the biggest difference. It completely changed the whole sort of sense of the game, because these players were slightly more fit than the other players. They added a bit more energy, and ultimately that led to us creating loads and loads more chances in the second half. But a few of them, obviously, to point out, Wickham and Zaha, I thought they came on. They had an ultimate really big impact on the game. Obviously, Wickham had a few shots that, got saved by the keeper, but certainly that power on that, his positioning as well, he was able to find the space to get to them shots. So, a good performance from Wickham. The fact that he's able to find these opportunities and take them, that's what we need of a player with his ability. We don't want someone like Shamak, who he was a good player before he got injured, but what he used to do, he used to only shoot when he knew he was going to score. And yes, ultimately that led to him scoring quite a few goals. But whereas Wickham, he gets himself in a position, he finds space, or looks for a pass, gets it and just has a shot, and 9 times out of 10 it's going on target, and whether it goes in or the keeper saves it, it just depends. But certainly good performance from him. Same with Zaha as well. Zaha, he didn't really have any shooting opportunities throughout the game, but just his sheer energy, his pace running down the wing, his crossing, all of that was brilliant in his performance. I suppose the two sort of other players who didn't really have that much impact coming off the bench, but certainly showed glimpses of how they could be an impact sub, is the likes of Sakho and Tompkins. So personally, I think Tompkins has come to Palace from West Ham, obviously to get more game time, but primarily, I think the reason Pardew brought him here was because Damien Delaney, he isn't getting any younger, so eventually Dan is going to be partnered with Tompkins, as Delaney's probably going to retire maybe in a few years' time. But certainly Tompkins, he showed glimpses of what he can do, obviously not only defensively, obviously with tackling, at clearing the ball, but also offensively, because, we whipped in a few crosses, a few corners in sort of the later stages of the game, and he was able to get his head on them. And unluckily for him, they just went narrowly wide. But certainly the fact that we've got another defender who can defend but attack as well is good. Obviously Sakho as well, he got a few passes to Wickham when Wickham had them few chances to shoot, but also Sakho had an opportunity himself to score just outside the area, a very powerful, venomous shot from him, and luckily it got saved by the keeper. So, a good performance all round from these people, but certainly these sort of 6 players did stand out to me because they had a big impact on the game, because their sheer pace just had a massive effect on the game, and it didn't show the fact that they hadn't been playing for about a month and a half. It just looked like that they've been fresh off, a few weeks of gameplay. Obviously, there was one substitution not used, and that was Pertron, obviously the young goalkeeper at Palace. Obviously, the reason he didn't play is because you rarely change goalkeepers in a game, and obviously where this is the first pre-season game, you want to keep with the same keeper. And considering Speroni didn't have to do anything during the game, there was no point in really him having to come into the squad. And I think the reason that Pardew's sticking to Speroni in pre-season is because the likes of Wayne Hennessy and Mandanda, obviously they were at the Euros, so they're getting an extended holiday because the Euros was during their holiday. So they're not going to be at the club. They're not going to be at the club for the beginning of the season. So what we're going to have to do is bring the like of either Speroni or McCarthy into the squad. And I think that Speroni, the reason he got a full 90 minutes is because he's the one who's most likely to be used next season. So there you have it. They were the player performances. Now for my man of the match. Now to move on to the man of the match, and just before we start that, I'd just like to apologise for the phone ringing in the background during the end of the player performances section, and I do apologise for that if it did disrupt you listening to the podcast. But I do live, I do have I have 2 brothers and sisters, so they're also living with me in the house as well. So sometimes when I'm recording the podcast, they sometimes get in the way. But I hope that didn't really disrupt the end of that sort of section too much. But I'm going to move on to the man of the match award, and I basically, in the player performances, I did highlight a few of the key players. And for me, the man of the match is a very easy decision, because there was only one player really who stood out for me, and that was Andros Townsend. And he's showing why he was worth £30 million, and actually for me, looking at his performance, showing me that actually it's a bargain, because he should be worth a lot more than that. But, I'm going to give it to Townsend just because of his sheer passing ability, his pace running down the wing, his crossing ability, his shooting ability, and also taking corners is a thing to highlight, because he took a few corners during the game, and actually the deliveries were pinpoint and very good. And I suppose that's why I'm going to give it to him. But overall, just a really solid performance from him. And if he can do what he's doing now in the Premier League season next year, or next season, I'm sure that we're going to have a very successful season with him playing on the wing. And I suppose a player who I didn't actually mention in the player rankings was actually was Zeki Fryers. So Zeki Fryers, he hasn't really been played under Pardew. He wasn't really played under Warnock, even though Warnock brought him. But actually, he's played a few pre-season games and actually showing glimpses of being a very good backup defender. Now, obviously, I'm not saying that he's going to take over the likes of Ward and Suarez, but certainly from what I've seen, the glimpses of what I've seen so far in pre-season, I can personally see him either playing as maybe a first-team player if there's injuries, or just being one of these sort of substitute cup run players, because, you know, we've had this problem for a few years now where sometimes we lose players due to injury and we don't have enough backup. But certainly, you know, Zeki Fryers hasn't been included in the squad for the last 2 seasons. But actually, having seen him at pre-season, I don't see why he shouldn't be included in it, because he's similar to Papa Suarez in the fact that he's all right at defending, not the best at defending, but he's slightly better than Papa Suarez at that. But then he's also still good at attacking, and obviously not as good as Papa Suarez. So I suppose he's Papa Suarez sort of double, but the opposite attributes. So obviously Papa Suarez is he's good at defending, but he's much better at attacking, whereas Zeki Fryers, I think, slightly better at defending than Suarez, but not as good going forward. But I suppose that's actually quite a like-to-like swap. So, you know, we haven't seen a lot of him in the Premier League, but certainly if he can replicate his form in pre-season in the league next year, I don't see why not. He could be a substitute player who can actually play on the wing as well, because if his, you know, attacking attributes are good enough. But I don't see why we couldn't use him in cup games or use him as, you know, a backup player. But there you have it. That was my man and watch award. Congratulations, Andros Townsend. You don't get a certificate or a trophy or anything, but you do get my sincere congratulations to what was a very solid performance by you. So there you have it. That was my match review and the player performances. Now I'm going to give you an exclusive interview with Andros Townsend and Alan Pardew after the game.
A goalless draw this evening, but for so early in the pre-season, are you pleased with the performance from your players?
Well, you know, they're right at the top of the league, Philadelphia, and it showed. They're a good side. But we got better as the game went on, got stronger. It was a really good effort from us for our first game. Lacked a little bit of sharpness around the box, as you would expect, but our energy levels and work rate was really the highest order for the first game.
A couple of players, their first game in a Palace shirt today, Andros Townsend and James Tompkins. What do you think about their performances?
I thought Townsend was a little bit of a highlight of the night for us. He had some great moments in that game, and just goes to show what threat he's going to be. With Wilf and Balassi, you know, that's kind of mouth-watering, so what we see in some of the moments tonight. James got stretched. Two first things he did was got run down the sides, and just picked up a little injury, but so he did well to get through the game, really. It's great to see him in the shirt, because these guys are going to threaten the team.
And the one player not involved, James McCarthy, tonight, is that just a small problem?
Yeah, he got a little problem with his knee tonight, so we'll have to see how that was. He only aggravated it yesterday, so I don't think he's going to make the Cincinnati game, but fingers crossed for Vancouver.
Yeah, as you said, we go on to Cincinnati. How was your time in Philadelphia?
Terrific, you know, tremendous response we've had from everybody here. It's been a very welcome for us, and we've really enjoyed it, and it's been a great 3 days. We've really worked hard, and the match tonight, there was not one unsavoury moment in the game, and that's not often that happens. A few professional fouls, but not one nasty challenge, and that's really good. That's why you come to these countries. They play the game in the right way. It was a great game, and fair credit to them. As much as we could have won it, they could have won it, so it's a good game.
Andros, first game in a Palace jersey, how was it?
Yeah, it was good. It was nice to get out there after a few weeks of training and finally pull on the shirt and try and get the fitness in before the season starts.
And what kind of steps did you take to adjust to being a Crystal Palace player?
I think it was pretty easy. The first day I came in, the boys welcomed me. We got to work straight away, and they helped me settle as quick as possible. And I think you see out there, I'm trying to build the links with the right back, with the number 10, with the strikers, and sure, as time goes on and as the pre-season goes on, that sort of connection will come.
Not a bad result tonight. What's your reaction?
No, of course, I think pre-season, of course you want to win it, but it's all about fitness. So we got players who've got 45 minutes, a couple that got 90 minutes, a few, like myself, got 60 minutes. So, no, it's all about fitness. These guys are a good side. They're second in their league. They're fighting the Red Bulls. So, and we knew it wasn't going to be easy, and it was difficult today, but I think we're happy with a draw at the end of it.
What's your reaction been to the Palace fanatics who have come here to Philadelphia to support you guys?
Yeah, no, they've been fantastic. I think I know from the past how passionate the Americans are about football, and we had an open training session yesterday, and a lot of fans came to support us. And again today, they came in a lot of numbers and they cheered us on. And I'm sure it'll be the same when we go to Cincinnati and Vancouver.
Andros, best of luck this season. Thank you so much.
So there you have it. Now you've heard what Pardew and Andros Townsend had to say. That concludes my match review of Crystal Palace versus Philadelphia Union in pre-season. But make sure to come back in the next few days where I'll continue my pre-season reviews by bringing you a review of the Cincinnati game. So thanks for watching, and remember to up the Palace.